Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Echo Base. We are here to talk some Star Wars stuff today. We have kind of a light news week, but what we have is, I think, pretty interesting. Some things I'm really looking forward to. I know the two of you are as well. We don't have Tim with us tonight. So as per Random Chatter Network policy, anything that goes wrong this week, Tim's fault automatically. So if you have any complaints about tonight's show, write to Tim at randomchatter.com. In fact, you can go ahead and start it right now.
Yeah, or just in general. Anything that goes wrong in general.
You know, you don't like the way the election goes? Tim at randomchatter.com.
As the Echo-based general counsel, that is legal.
Yeah, what Tom said. By the way, everybody, that's Tom. Tom, how you doing tonight?
I'm hanging in there. I had a good camping trip last night, disconnected from the world. So
excellent.
Sweet. Ready to get back into it.
You know, I saw a movie about people taking a camping trip and disconnecting from the world and for about a week. And then while they were disconnected, an alien invasion happened. And they didn't have a clue as to what was going on because they had turned off their cell phones and weren't checking email or anything like that. So
you don't know that my body hasn't been snatched. So I'm still learning how humans act, but
yeah,
doing a pretty good job.
So are we, and we haven't been body snatched. So oh wow,
it's a tough thing to learn.
It really is, and I've spent my whole life trying. Lou, how are you doing tonight?
I am doing great.
Excellent.
I can't say anything bad about what's been going on. I've got the new Star Wars game. I've had some beautiful weather, and hey, you know, things looking up.
We are going to talk about that Star Wars game here in a minute. I actually got to go out a little bit this weekend, which is, especially now with the epidemic, is kind of a rare thing. And it was pretty exciting. Yeah, no, Carrie, I was not talking about The Great Outdoors. So that is also another great movie. I love that movie. No, I was talking about a movie that we're actually going to discuss here in a few minutes when we record Random Chatter. So those of you listening live will get to hear me talk about it here in a few minutes. But while I was out, now you guys know the Mandalorian Black Series figures. There's some new ones coming out here in a couple of weeks, right? I think like the 15th or something.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I had a really hard time getting the earlier ones. Didn't get my pre-orders in when I should have. Didn't get my pre-orders in for this one. And I remember back to how difficult it was to try to hunt some of them down. I got one as a gift. I got another one I did manage to pre-order. And then when I was visiting Tim, they had Cara Dune in the store. And so I picked up actually two of those and I gave him one as a gift. But I don't like the original Mandalorian armor that much because my OCD doesn't like the fact that the different pieces are like different colors and stuff. And it's kind of this brown, rusty, orange look. I don't like that. So I really wanted to get the new, you know, spoiler alert for the end of season 1 of The Mandalorian, like the full Beskar armor, the cool looking one, right?
Sure.
No chance I'm going to find that in stores, first of all. And ordering it online, unless I want to pay like $50, I'm probably not going to get it. But I was in Winchester, Virginia, in their little Old Town area, and there's a collectibles store down there. Ooh, and I have
very nice.
What most of you don't, because it doesn't come out until the 15th, and today is only the 4th. So, look at that right there. Our audio listeners are loving how that looks right now, aren't you?
Yeah, aren't they?
Yeah. So I've got.
It looks real stupid.
I've got the Mandalorian.
And I hate it.
Yeah.
Nice.
There's a little chip out of the top of the box here, so there's no point in me keeping it in the box for like any sort of monetary value. And yet there's like gold coloring on the bottom of the box here. I don't know if that's going to be a standard now or not.
Oh, they're nice looking. They're nice looking boxes. Yeah. Well, they're different colors for different waves, I guess.
Right. So this does not indicate that this is a special edition of any sort, right? This is not.
No, I don't believe so.
Okay. I just want to make sure that
I got the same one. Yeah. Mine from Entertainment Earth shipped out, and I got it last week.
Okay.
And
it had the gold trim around it too. I don't want to open it if it's some sort of a limited boxing sort of thing either, you know.
Between shows, I'll go grab mine. We'll compare boxes and make sure it's because mine's just a regular one from Entertainment Earth.
Okay.
But yeah, that new box design with the slanted side is the new style going forward.
Really good looking box.
Picked up something else came in the mail too, and I'm like, oh yeah, what was that one? I forgot to order that. I mean, you know, I ordered these things so long ago, and I'm like, when they come in now, it's like, I think we were talking about this last week. Tom was like, "Oh, look what just came! I don't even know what idea what it is." I'm like, "Yeah, I have no idea what this box is." I'm like, "It's from Entertainment Earth. I'm pretty sure it's a Star Wars figure, but I have no idea."
Yeah. And Fetmatic in the chat room just said his is on the way from the Disney store. So
I ordered one of the, I think it would have been a Celebration exclusive, but it's the ARC Trooper 3-pack with Fives, Echo.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And who else is in the pack? I can't remember. Somebody in the chat will save me. But anyhow, there's a Hasbro distribution center less than 60 miles from my house.
Oh.
But I just get a FedEx notification that pops up in my email. It doesn't tell you in the details what it is. So I have all these pending orders, pre-orders with Hasbro from God knows when, and I have to like copy the order number and go log on. It's a whole process
right.
to remind myself of
you don't keep a spreadsheet with all your order numbers and just cross-reference as you get the notifications like the rest of us do?
It's chaos theory here. I scramble to the front door to try to grab the package before my wife figures out that it's another Star Wars toy.
Oh, and then you just know to go to the trash bin and get it out.
Get it out, yeah. Well, it's funny because I was on Hasbro Pulse today looking for confirmation on something I had, and I'm like, I still have an order for Ahsoka Tano, I think it was, from like February. It says unfulfilled. I'm like,
wow.
Is it going to ship sometime, or what's the story here?
Spoiler alert, no.
No idea.
No, it's not.
No idea.
Yeah, we've got his money, and he's not saying anything.
Right.
Yeah, we'll just keep going until he says something.
Yeah, I don't have any problem tracking my orders because I order like one thing for 6 months. So
that's the way to do it.
Yeah. So anyway, and I'm Eric for you new people out there. Tom, Lou, Eric. So this week we don't really have a lot to talk about, but the one really big thing that we do have to talk about is Squadrons. Star Wars Squadrons is here. This is the first flight simulator that we've gotten in ages. Now I know Battlefront has had like a flight mode. Not Knights of the Old Republic. Star Wars: The Old Republic has a kind of a Galactic Starfighter sort of expansion thing to it. But as far as a dedicated flight simulator, we haven't had one in ages.
Been a long time.
Yeah.
It's a callback to the old TIE Fighter and X-Wing days.
Exactly.
From the 90s.
And it's here. It's here. We finally have it. There's a little bit of a single player campaign that seems to almost be more of a way to familiarize yourself with the controls and kind of gain some basic flight skill. But after that, you're dropped into 5-on-5 team battles, playing either Rebels or Imperials. I picked it up just before the episode.
A lot of fun so far.
I was going to ask. I haven't had a chance to play it. In fact, I think it just finished downloading before we started recording. So once we are done, I'm going to log in and play. But the two of you have actually played it, right?
Yep.
A little bit.
Okay.
Yep.
Tom, how far have you gotten into it so far?
I'm about midway through the single player campaign. I ran into a buzzsaw on Friday night because there's a mission, or like digitally. There was a mission early on, and it's still in tutorial mode, and it's telling you or instructing you on how to do a particular thing. I would do it, and the whole mission would just freeze. And so I could look around and see my cockpit because I'm playing in VR, and I could hear like the noise of the X-Wing engine, but I couldn't do anything. So I must have played that mission 10 times before I finally got it fixed. I restarted my PlayStation, the whole 9 yards, and it finally fixed itself. So I'm not as far as I'd like, but it's been fun. You know,
Tom, I had a lot of sympathy for the technical difficulties you were going through right up until you said the letters VR.
Yeah, I had the same thought.
Yeah, now you're kind of persona non grata to us.
I'm like, it's like I think his connection's starting to fail.
Yeah. I'm thinking we're starting to lose him here.
Hello?
Yeah. So did you have to actually do anything other than just restart your device, or was it more complicated?
No, I mean, I restarted the PlayStation several times. It wasn't a VR issue.
Okay.
It was some sort of software glitch that was causing the game to freeze up. But, I don't know. It's sort of like turning the computer off and on again multiple times until it figures itself out.
Yeah. Okay. Well, before we get into some actual gameplay review sort of thing, I also want to get Lou's opinion, but I want to ask you a question about the VR real quick, because I've heard some kind of mixed things about the PlayStation VR. They're saying that the resolution isn't all that great, which is a limitation apparently of the PlayStation VR system, not so much the game. Mm-hmm. And that especially ships that are kind of far off in the distance, sometimes there are little blotches moving around. You can't quite make them out too well. First, have you played it both VR and non-VR? And second, has that been a hurdle that you feel like has been annoying or problematic or not really an issue at all?
So you can, I've played both. You can shut the VR headset off and just play it regular. Mm-hmm. You don't have to have a special version to play it VR. And it's not limited to this game. I think it's a function of, as you said, the VR technology and the limitations,
right?
Especially on the periphery of your vision, it's blurrier. And there were a couple times even during some cutscenes where I thought like my headset was off, like the focus was off, but it's just the headset. So that's been a little frustrating. I will say it hasn't been a huge annoyance in single player because it's a big tutorial basically. Yeah. So the stakes are lower there. We'll see what my tolerance level is when I get into multiplayer. Because if I'm getting killed again and again and again, that's not going to be fun.
Yeah, that's always the rough part with multiplayer is if you don't have the same technological advantage, I guess, as other people. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the reasons I bought it on console instead of trying to get it on the PC is because at least on the console, you have everybody else running the same console. Right. And you can play cross-platform, but you can turn that off in the settings too. So I could make it so I'm just playing with other people with Xbox, or I can play with Lou, who's on a PS4, and you're on a PS4, and other people I know are on PC. But yeah, I didn't want to get it on PC, and then if my video card isn't good enough and it's a little laggy and stuff like that, I didn't want to deal with that. Now the VR, any nausea issues? I know some games are better than other games as far as that goes.
No, this game's good. And I would say that the advantage that I think it has over a non-VR player is I think you have to click something to do free look in the cockpit on this just a standard non-VR. Mm-hmm. I could just look around. So if you're, flying across my screen, I can look up, look out of my cockpit and a little more easily follow you. Mm. Whether that makes a difference in multiplayer, we'll see.
I imagine it would, but then I think that if that range issue is a problem, that could compensate for it. So
just fire at your fuzzy dot off in the distance.
Pretty much. All right. So Lou, your experience with it so far, and then we'll get into some kind of analysis and review.
Sure. Yeah. My experience is much less than Tom's for two reasons. I haven't played as much as him, and I don't have VR. So, I'm stuck to a, flat screen TV, just, sitting on my couch.
Poor guy.
Just, yeah, I know. Boo-hoo. But no, I made it through the first two missions in the game story mode, which is basically just an intro to the Imperial side and an intro to the Rebel side. And it, the gameplay is fun. The controls are pretty cool. It's nice to see, both heads-up display stuff and actual screens in the cockpit to make you feel like you're really in a fighter, which is really cool. And like Tom said, this is a throwback to the early days of Star Wars, flight sim stuff where you're like, this is really cool. This feels like I'm in a ship again, and it brings me back to my aviation background and stuff too. But and I have to gripe a little bit. There was a gripe I did in Discord today earlier because they give you the option of inverting the controls in the for the controls of the ship.
Right.
I'm like, why do I have to invert the controls to make them play like a real aircraft? It shouldn't. Inverting them should do the opposite. It's like, I pull back in the stick, I should go up. I push forward, I should go down. It's the way it should be.
But to be fair, Lou, I mean, this isn't the first game you've had to.
No, I know that, but why is that a thing? It's like it's backwards. It's not like
because you're not a 12-year-old kid. You're someone who's actually flown a plane.
Yeah, but even before I actually flew a plane, it was kind of pull back in the stick to pull
up. You go up and push forward to go down, and
I don't know. It seemed pretty simple to me, but I tried playing it without doing the controls first. I'm like, oh my god, I can't.
I would love to watch someone like you who actually, again, has actually flown planes, trying to do that without the inverted stick, and to see how long you lasted either before crashing or your blood pressure getting high enough that your wife has to come and intervene.
It's funny because I would start playing it and I'm like, okay, I kind of know what I'm doing, and then all of a sudden my brain would go back to the way it's supposed to be, and I'm like, oh, I'm going the wrong way. It's, I did run into a few ships.
I was going to say, oh, there's a cliff, and then you just dive straight toward the cliff. It's like, no.
Well, yeah, there was this like, what's that first mission where you're attacking? Is it the cargo station when it's like in like a cave? And I'm like, okay, I can't do this in a cave.
Oh, that'd be great. All right, so I assume.
But I am thinking about picking up a stick controller for the PS4. I think I might have to do that.
Do they make them? I guess they make them for console games. I've never really bothered to invest in it. So right out of the gate,
you investigated beforehand, and you can do it.
You think that you want to invest in this game enough to go ahead and get a flight stick? It's that good so far?
Yeah, because it would make the flying a lot nicer.
Yeah,
I think personally. I mean, it's an expense. Yeah, my thought process is, do I buy it because it's a really limited game? It's not like it's a full campaign mode. There's a story mode, and there's because it depends on how much I'm going to play the multiplayer.
Yeah. If
I do, then I'll probably invest.
Now I'll say this: when you get a multiplayer game you like, it doesn't have to be something that's really grand and epic. I played Team Fortress 2 for years and years and years, and yeah, there are player-generated maps too, but just the same maps over and over again. Because there's something about squad dynamics in like a 5x5 battle or a 10x10 battle or a 4x4, whatever, that are fun and interesting. And look at other games like Counter-Strike and et cetera that have been around for ages and are still around.
Maps for years.
Yeah. So if the game is good enough, it may very well be worth investing in long term, even if it's not, really epic in scale.
Right.
So.
And if Battlefront 2 is any guide, they've done very well expanding that game with maps and all sorts of stuff. And I play a game a lot less than I used to, but when I played Counter-Strike extensively, when I played games like that, I enjoyed getting to know every nook and cranny of a map. And it sometimes frustrated me when a game would just dump maps, quarter after quarter after. I mean, it's neat to have new content, but you felt like you lost that mastery and that sort of familiarity with the maps. Halo's a good example of that. Early on, I would go back and play Blood Gulch on the original Halo 1,000 times before I'd play some of these newer maps and whatnot. And there's something special about that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So Lou, the first two missions, I assume, are X-Wing and TIE Fighter?
Yes.
Okay. Tom, what other ships have you gotten to fly so far beyond that?
That's it so far. I've not gotten out of the X-Wing and the TIE Fighter yet. So I've got a ways to go. I've played the practice mode. I know they do let you into a Y-Wing. I played the practice mode after I was having trouble with the freezing for a while. That you can fly whatever you want, test out different loadouts. It's kind of neat because you can drop in different elements. You can drop in a Raider Corvette, you can drop in a fighter squadron, different stuff like that, sort of to test out different aspects of the game. So the Y-Wing can take a beating, and I'm proud of that.
The Y-Wing should take a beating. And I'm proud of that. No, what's really going to bug me about this game and what's going to get me to uninstall it is if the ship that I excel at, if I suck at all the ships and the one ship I'm any good at is the Y-Wing. Not going to happen.
You can just join my team.
Not going to happen. And the problem is, traditionally in games like this, I'm good at playing the tank character, the heavy. And that's kind of what the Y-Wing seems to be, and I'm a little worried.
Come on aboard. There's plenty of room.
Nothing wrong with that.
Not playing a Y-Wing. But
the A10 of the Star Wars universe.
Give me an A10. I love the A10, but
you should love a Y-Wing.
But why? It's got the word right there in the name. Why? Why, Lou? So apparently throughout the rest of the single player campaign, my understanding is that you get to experience the different ships. And for the Rebels, we've got the X-Wing, the Y-Wing, God help us, the A-Wing, and the U-Wing. And then on the Imperial side, we've got the TIE Fighter, the TIE Interceptor, the TIE Bomber, and whatever that other thing is. And Tom, you're going to tell me what that is.
The Striker.
The Striker. Thank you. And I'm really curious about the role of the U-Wing.
Or Reaper, excuse me. It's the Reaper is the carrier model, not the Striker.
I appreciate that, Tom, because now I feel less stupid because you didn't know it either. So it's the Reaper?
The Reaper is the support model.
So I want to know, because we didn't really get a good understanding of it before, what the Reaper and what the U-Wing do, because they seem like support roles. They seem like they're basically troop transports almost. And so those tend to be the slower, heavier, more utility vehicles that you would think in a game like this would typically be what you'd have as a bomber. But you have a bomber in the TIE Bomber and the Y-Wing. Mm-hmm. What do these support ships do? What is their purpose? And I don't know that I understand that yet.
They're not bad at dogfighting, but
really?
The big thing is they can, they've got decent speed, decent maneuverability, but they can drop resupply, like, repair kits, ammo resupply.
So they can kind of act as a healer to some extent?
I was just saying, like a healer.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
And then in TF2, kind of like an engineer where you can resupply people's ammo and such, I guess?
That's exactly right. Yep.
I don't know. I might be okay at that sort of thing. If you've got a good squadron that communicates well with one another. And that's really the other thing I'm looking forward to about this game, is that it seems to depend very heavily upon your squad build out and people interacting with one another. And I'm really kind of curious as to how that's going to turn out. So.
And the developers seem to have been sensitive to the, what most people's interests are going to be. They openly said, most people, when they play the Rebel Alliance, are going to opt for the X-Wing, right? That's just, probably the most beloved fighter, which is a real shame. But, they've been cognizant about trying to balance that. Like, hey, this, you're going to find this fighter is very well suited for a lot of things, but you're going to run into some other aspects of missions where it's not so great, or you could have a better fit from one of the other fighters. And I appreciate that. That makes it fun it encourages people to mix up the team, because the last thing I want to do is play round after round where everybody is just fighting for the X-Wing.
Right. I mean, every ship has its own role and does its excels at certain things in combat. So you want to have things that are going to make use of each one of those types of ships.
But then you also have to, as a developer, balance those things out too much, because if the X-Wing is overpowered compared to the other ships, I'm taking an X-Wing every time. Like, you've got to make it so you have some sort of compelling reason to choose one of these other ships. Fatmatic in the chat room, be easy on the Y-Wing, Eric. That was me being easy on the Y-Wing.
To him. He's a wise man. You listen to him.
I'll try. So that brings up another question, though. So far, do you guys think, I know you guys haven't played all the ships yet, but do you think you're going to have a favorite ship? And if so, which one?
I haven't played enough to really know yet.
Is there one that you hope that you could learn what, like, is there one you're most interested in as opposed to one you think you're going to be a good fit for? Like, if you could have your dream ship and have the skills to be able to handle that ship well, what do you think you would lean more toward?
I will go ahead and stay on brand, because the Y-Wing is a good balance for my skill set, which is low. So I can take a lot of damage. I can deal out a lot of damage. If you can get me close to a capital target or something, I can destroy it. But it's more forgiving of my terrible, awful flying. If there's a ship I want to get good at, it would be the TIE Interceptor, because there's a drift technique that you can learn in this game that makes it really hard to hit.
I've heard about that.
The target if the player's not doing well and knows, is good with the technique. And that makes me think back to like some of the other games, Counter-Strike and stuff, where, I was actually decent at it. And I remember that feeling of logging on and being like, feeling like you know what you're doing.
Right.
So I'd like to get a slice back.
I would like to ever log into a game and feel like I know what I'm doing. I imagine that'd be a nice feeling. I don't know, but I'm guessing. Well, I want to fly with Tom, because then I don't have to be the Y-Wing.
I will take it every time.
Tom is now my favorite squad mate. Lou, any ideas on what you might like to try?
I'm looking forward to getting into the TIE Interceptor. I think that's going to be a fun ship to fly. I mean, that and an X-Wing, of course. I mean, X-Wing, of course, because it is the most iconic ship out of Star Wars, and it's a badass ship. I mean, when you come right down to it, and plus it has shields like most of the Imperial stuff does not. So I kind of like shields.
I kind of like not dying.
Yeah, call me silly.
Yeah.
You don't want to be cannon fodder.
Yeah.
No, but that doesn't make because I think the TIE Interceptor should have shields personally. But I mean, it's not their baseline. Just throw a million of them at the enemy type ship. But
well, I'm hoping that maybe in an expansion we get a B-wing and a TIE Defender.
That'd be nice.
I'd love a TIE Defender.
Thrawn approves.
Right.
Yep.
So my favorite ships, I think, would be my favorite ship when I played the X-Wing miniatures game from Fantasy Flight Games. Always has been the TIE Interceptor, piloted by Baron Fell.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I am looking forward to playing the TIE Interceptor. However, I think if I can pull it off, my favorite ship will probably end up being the A-Wing. And I'm wondering if I learned a little bit about how you're supposed to do that that kind of drift and boost technique with the TIE Interceptor, and I get the impression it can also be pulled off in a Y-Wing. I'm sorry, in an A-Wing. Now, the A-Wing has shields too, so the distribution, I think the TIE Interceptor can probably do it a little bit better, but I think it can also be done in an A-Wing, and I want to see if that's the case. And if so, I'm going to try to go for the A-Wing. I have always liked either the characters or vehicles that you can snipe from a distance or that you can dart in and out really quick, which is ironic given what I said earlier about I'm better at the ones that are the slow ones with the big guns. I am really curious about the Reaper and the U-Wing though, because I think that's the type of thing I could probably be pretty good at. I understand the tactics of being in a support role and being able to get in and get to someone and get back out again and get to another person that, and kind of having an overview of the battlefield and where you need to be and where other people are likely to be. And even if I can't always shoot them, if I can get the resources and supplies to where they need to be, I don't know. I think I might be able to pull that off. So maybe I'll take a closer look at those. Again, as long as I don't have to be a Y-Wing, I don't care.
Well, I think it also depends on, if we're playing against 12-year-olds that can kick our butts, because reaction times are better, or if, that to me is a lot of it. And I think a lot of it's going to be the controls, because I am not as good with a, PS4 controller as I would be with a joystick and throttle.
That's actually why I got it for the Xbox, because I like the feel of the controller better than I do the PS4.
Better than I mean, I've got the little joystick things on top of the joysticks, but they still don't give you as much control as I'd like. Right. And I was finding that last night playing, and I know it was the first hour I had playing the game, so you got that learning curve and you get muscle memory built up. But controlling throttle with your thumb, and then it just seemed awkward. I'm sure once I get more time under my belt, it'll be a lot easier to control. But I just think a separate throttle control on the one hand and a joystick on the other hand would be a lot easier to get that feel.
My question,
it is.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No, it is the thing that I had a little bit of learning curve with on the PlayStation is on the left stick that controls your throttle and your yaw. Mm-hmm. Feeling like I need to have it. I think. Well, yeah. Well, feeling like I need to have it pushed forward, just sort of the standard video game muscle memory of like pushing forward to go, as opposed to just having throttle up where I need it to be. And then
so
potentially messing up and dropping the throttle as you roll. That's been a little bit of a challenge.
So it's not like a gas pedal then. It's not you adjust it up or down and then you let go to leave it at that setting. Yeah, so you're changing your throttle as you
where you bring the throttle back to turn faster and then throttle up when you're in a straight line again. And I am still getting used to where I'm looking at on the consoles for where my throttle setting is, so I know what speed I'm at, because it's hidden. It's not like it's right in front of you. It's on a console down lower in your screen. You're not looking there. It's just a matter of getting used to where things are and knowing what you're doing.
And that's another thing I'm curious about with the controls is the power distribution too. How difficult is it? So I understand the difficulty mentally in managing your power distribution, but as far as the interface goes, I heard you don't really get into that more until further into the tutorial, but any thoughts so far on like just the actual controls for shields, lasers, and speed?
That's been pretty smooth. So the D-pad provides your basic controls, at least on the PlayStation, which isn't too bad. There's another function where you can focus shields. You can either have them balanced, so equal distribution, focused front or focused back. And my only problem there is that, and maybe I'm doing it wrong, but I think you have to, like, if I'm focusing my shields to the rear, you have to hold the joystick down while you're holding, I forget what button, square or circle. And you have to keep it held there. It doesn't just toggle up, down, or balanced.
Oh.
You physically have to hold it there and then let the button go to get it set that way. So like if I'm doing a bombing run on the Y-wing, I want them focused forward and then quickly shift them back. It can be sort of a shuffle of buttons. So I can see where a joystick with sort of a nice button layout and a separate throttle would come in useful.
Yeah.
Yeah, depending on how you map those commands, because it can be a bit cumbersome, and I think a lot of it's just doing it more and more. I mean, that's why pilots have thousands of hours in a cockpit to understand what controls are where, and it's just too much going on. I mean, we're complaining about half dozen buttons on a controller.
Right.
And these guys flying real things are worried about millions of switches all around them and what's going on and warning sensors going off and everything else, but. It's just muscle memory. It's just getting used to it, knowing the controls, and building up your skill set.
The other odd thing is that when you throttle completely down, you don't drift. You can come to a complete stop, unlike some other space-based games.
I did hear the developers speak to the fact that because the Star Wars films really approached Starfighter Battle as more of a World War II sort of thing with atmospheric physicality to it. They wanted that in this game too, because they wanted to feel like it was in the movie. So they didn't go with a lot of real world space physics like we would get out of the universe of Babylon 5 or The Expanse. They went with the fantasy based, not real at all Star Wars. So you're saying that you can throttle. So if I wanted to drift, if I cut the throttle all the way to 0, does that stop me or?
Yeah. Yeah, you're going to stop. What I don't know is whether people are using that like Top Gun style, like Maverick, like killing the throttle, letting somebody on your tail fly right by and then throttling back up to get behind them. Well, because that's what I want to do.
What I want to try, I mean, because
that's a legit move. Yeah.
Apparently part of this TIE interceptor thing is you go full speed, you cut the throttle to drift and you turn a little bit and then you boost and then you cut and you turn and you boost. And you zigzag so much up and down and left and right that they can't get a good lock on you.
Yeah.
But if cutting back the throttle stops you, there's got to be a point at which you can cut back enough to still drift. But if there's still actual power to the throttle, when you turn, you're actually turning into a turn. You're not just twisting the vehicle while you're continuing to move on the same path.
Right.
Huh. Well, like I said at the beginning of the show, we blame Tim.
Works for me.
I can't wait to try it out.
Yeah, it's been fun. The single player is fun. It's, it's a what I was hoping for in a Star Wars story, which is something that doesn't need to be like heavily connected to, your main characters and whatnot. It's a good slice of Star Wars.
Yeah. It's good. All right, Blue, what else do we have? We do have an announcement, don't we?
We do. We have an upcoming interview.
Yeah.
Which is exciting. I'm trying to find my show notes here. Sorry about that. Of course, now I've got 10 different pages.
Well, I can talk while you pull up the notes if you want. No, you got it?
Just got here, actually. So we have an upcoming interview with Amy Ratcliffe.
Yes.
She's been a friend of the show for a long time. We had her podcasting with us at Celebration Anaheim back in 2015.
To be fair, when we say podcasting with us, we were part of the Forcecast at the time.
Sure.
So
yep, exactly. Yeah. Us as in us personally.
Us personally, not the network. Yeah. But this will be her induction to the Force Chatter sub network of Random Chatter. So this will be very awesome. And she's a wonderful person too. So it'll be good to talk to her again.
So it'll be audio only. We're not doing streaming for video for this one, but it'll be audio only interview. And this will be covering her new book, I believe, right? Mm-hmm. She's got two things going on now. She have her own book, and she's also writing a story for the Certain Point of View book for Empire.
That's my understanding
as well. Yeah.
So yeah, we should check to see if we can ask questions about that at all. Even if only very general questions, we'll have to get with them on that. But I'm looking forward to it. This book that we're going to be talking about, we'll wait until we actually are closer to the interview. It's coming up pretty soon here, but it's a nonfiction book dealing with today's concepts of mindfulness and like mental relaxation and things like that, and reflections on that sort of thing in Star Wars, and kind of drawing parallels between the two. It looks really, really interesting.
It does. It does. I can't wait to talk to her about this. So it will be a lot of fun. So if people get a hold of us, we'll do the quick thing right through here. So we have Twitter. We're Random Chatter on Twitter, as well as Force Chatter. In Discord, you can find us at randomchatter.com/Discord. That's our, we have, how many channels do we have there? We have way too many channels.
That's where we live throughout the week.
It is.
Well, we're actually kind of combining some channels, trimming other channels, adding some new channels. So how many channels? I don't know. We do have channels for each one of the shows on the network. And for anybody that donates anything to the network through Patreon, we open up additional stuff, a lot of additional stuff in the Discord server.
Some people may say too much stuff. But.
Really, too much of us? You can never have too much of us, right?
That is a very good point, Eric.
Well, the good news is not just us, though. It's other audience members, too. Other people like you actively participating, and the people here in the chat room, too. So...
And of course, more importantly, now that we are on YouTube, head over to randomchatter.com/YouTube so you can get links to the shows and kind of see our stuff and see the old videos, like them, watch a couple videos in a row. It helps us out too, and like the videos, and to, of course, tell your friends about us too.
That helps.
So,
if only people had done that in high school.
News. Oh, Eric.
I know. We don't have a whole lot of
back
other
to the
news.
We had some cryptic stuff, I guess, maybe from Gary Whitta.
Yeah, a little bit.
So he was a writer in Rogue One. Many people know his name, of course. And he tweeted last week, basically said something some news coming from a galaxy far, far away this week. Stay tuned.
Yeah, that's all he said.
So cryptic, but...
I wonder if it's going to happen on his Animal Crossing show. If
that's a good question.
For those of you who don't know,
we haven't talked about Animal Crossing in so long. Thanks, Tom.
For those of you who don't know, Gary Whitta has his own talk show where he hosts other celebrities and notable people in Animal Crossing,
including Danny Trejo, Lou.
Yes.
So don't talk bad about Animal Crossing, or Danny Trejo will kick your butt. I will love every minute of it.
I had no idea
he will come to your island and wreck everything.
Yeah. Have you guys watched any? I know you have. Have you watched any of it, Tom?
Not of his interview.
Okay.
No, I've caught little bits and pieces of the episodes.
Yeah, I think
it's an awesome idea. I'm really happy that it took off the way it did.
What else has Gary Whitta done? Other than Rogue One in Star Wars, didn't he write? I feel like he wrote something. I don't know.
Good question.
Well, in the meantime, this news.
Here.
I know, right? I gotta make you earn your pay somehow, Lou. All that money you're making from the network.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So the obvious speculation on this is it's going to be news about the Cassian Andor series, because as the writer of Rogue One, you would assume that would be the property within Star Wars he'd probably be most plugged into. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. That seems to make sense. And we are having a Cassian Andor series coming up, and it's about time we get more information on it, right? Like we should be getting, I don't know, casting, a plot synopsis.
You would think, although with
official
COVID,
title.
Who knows?
Yeah.
So on IMDb, he is, let's see here, some Walking Dead stuff. He did the screenplay for After Earth. That was the Will Smith and his son project. Yeah. Book of Eli.
Oh, yeah.
Probably his biggest one.
And of course, Animal Talking. Yeah.
I had thought that he had done a novel, but maybe I'm...
He did. He's 2 books, Abomination, and then one last year called Oliver.
Okay, neither of which were Star Wars, so...
Yeah.
Never mind. Who did the Aftermath trilogy again?
Chuck Wendig.
Chuck Wendig, okay.
Yeah.
They both start with W.
They do.
That's very true.
One is really, really good, and the other wrote the Aftermath. Never mind. I'm sorry.
Wow.
That's not fair. That's not fair. I just didn't like that the trilogy didn't give us what we were expecting it to give us.
We were expecting something totally different.
So there have been some other rumors going around, and I don't know what to think of these. Latino Review, by the way, also independently confirmed the thing about Pedro Pascal, but then also said that they believe that it's been resolved.
Okay.
I don't know. Different discussion, though. You should see our last episode of The Outer Rim for more on that. But there are some sources that are saying that the project that Benioff and Weiss had been working on, which is still being worked on, which is to be the next big announcement for the film universe of Star Wars, is going to be centered around Darth Bane.
Interesting.
Yes. Interesting indeed.
Unlike Game of Thrones, have they consulted any source material in what they're doing is my first question. Not that it has to be beholden, but I would at least want confirmation that they have seen a Star Wars movie or read a Star Wars book. I don't know.
So we don't know about directors.
Key thing.
Benioff and Weiss are long gone from any Star Wars project. They've stepped out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have to worry about that, fortunately. And I don't know. I would hope that after what happened with Solo, I truly believe that Lucasfilm is going to be a little bit more hands-on and making sure that things are up to their own expectations with whatever filmmakers they bring in for things. So I would like to think that they're going to be relatively close to the source material, keeping in mind that the source material is now Legends. So, I mean, you can do a lot with it because it's no longer officially canon. If this is even true.
They've got enough of a foundation in Bane in the canon universe. I mean, you know, if you've seen the last big Yoda arc in the Lost season 6, he ends up going to Moraband, and then he runs into this like visage of Darth Bane, and it's established that he's the creator of the Rule of Two. Mm-hmm. So there's some juicy roots there that they could expand on. But if it's a project that takes us out of this timeline that we've been stuck in for 40 years and gets us on film or TV way back in time in the galaxy, I'm all for it. Count me in.
Okay, so you're in favor of this? Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be Bane, but getting us out of this time window,
right?
Especially if it takes us back to Old Republic or pre-Old Republic. I think that's great for the franchise. Inject some new life, explore a different part of the timeline, and give us something completely new.
My own personal take on what I want to see next in the timeline is the same as it was in 1991 when Heir of the Empire came out. And that's 2 words. What's next? I want to take whatever the most recent chronological item is, and I want the next part. That's all I want. I don't want prequels. I don't want 2,000 years in the future. I don't want 2,000 years in the past. I want to know what's next. Now, I don't want it to be part of the Skywalker saga per se. And it doesn't have to be like the year after, but like a little bit down the road. I would like to see, I would be okay with the continuation of Rey or Finn or Poe, like actually do something with Finn and actually do something with Poe and Rose, etc. But there's actually also a rumor that there's more to come with Rey down the line too.
I hope so.
But I do see some value in going back to the Old Republic. And I don't remember the timeline on Bane. How far back does he go?
I'm trying to think if they... My EU Legends knowledge is limited on this one.
It was really far back.
maybe 1,000 years before the Clone Wars, give or take.
So my understanding is that Bane had a holocron from Revan, or the other way around. So
yeah, you've gotten me.
Okay, so bringing Bane in could also bring Revan in, and if it can tie it into the Old Republic era, like the Knights of the Old Republic stuff and Darth Revan, I mean, again, there are certain things in Star Wars lore outside of the movie saga that resonate really, really strongly with fans. And the three that come to mind the most have been Thrawn, who is now officially canon, and we may or may not see in live action, Ahsoka, who has always been canon, and it looks like we will now see in live action, and Revan. And then to a lesser extent, Bane. But I think like really those are the top three, right? Thrawn, Ahsoka, and Revan. So if they can somehow get Revan in, and it would make sense to kind of touch on Bane a little bit in the Rule of Two and that whole thing. Because it's always been kind of an unanswered part of Star Wars for people who are isolated to just film knowledge and haven't read books and don't understand where that all comes from. And more importantly, why, if you're bad guys, would you only have two of you? 20,000 Jedi, I'm going to go get a buddy and take them all on. Me and Bob over here. No, it doesn't make sense. Build a Sith army and then go take on the Jedi. So why only two? So we know the answer, but the average moviegoer out there doesn't get it at all. It doesn't make any sense.
And it makes sense as a project because it connects to something that even, most casual fans know and understand,
right,
in terms of the Rule of Two. It's got a good linkage to the material that we know. And depending on how they frame the story, whether these characters have any scrap of their, EU histories that's carried forward or not, the bottom line, give us a compelling character or compelling characters, give them compelling goals, and just tell a good Star Wars story.
Right.
And the connective tissue is already there. It'll help. Mm-hmm. That's the recipe for a good Star Wars. I understand it's not simple, it's not easy, but
Yeah. Lou, what are your thoughts on this? Is Darth Bane and or that time period something you would want to see?
Yeah, I'd be okay with that. In my kind of thoughts are, along with Tom, it's give me something outside of what we see now. I want to go far away from this timeline, so we don't get into what we have already and stepping on the toes of that and kind of crossing into it. And that's the one. I mean, as much as I would like to have a what's next that you mentioned, Eric, it's the whole thing of how do you do what's next without still feeling like we're talking about the Skywalker saga,
right?
Because it's still there. It's still, it's in the back of your mind. They're going to come across it and they're going to talk about it. If we're far enough away from that, then we don't have to worry about it. That's kind of my thought about
I definitely think
where we'd go.
That what I want in that is not what's best. I think we do need a break from this area. And there's so much in the world building of Star Wars to cover. You have a history that goes back at least 5,000 years before Luke Skywalker.
Oh, sure. Yep.
There's a lot to cover there.
There is. And my trouble with going forward without making a big jump in time is arguably what was going on that we got in the stories that we have now was the most important thing happening in the galaxy.
Right.
Right. How is it going to feel if we could talk about, this is happening over here? Wasn't quite that epic, but here's the story. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It seems like we're trying to do something different for the sake of being different, but it's not going to be as exciting or as interesting as what we already had.
So the only thing I can see going forward that could be a really good storytelling mechanic is what I think they've been foreshadowing all along with the unknown regions and the Grisk, and that's basically a rebooting of the Yuuzhan Vong. And I think that's kind of what they're leading the Grisk into maybe being, if not the literal incarnation of the Yuuzhan Vong. Something that's kind of similar, like something that would come in and basically just take over the galaxy. And whether you're Rebel or Empire, it doesn't matter. You're just going to get trounced and bring in a threat from the outside. that is so much bigger than what we've seen before. I think that that's really something that's compelling that they could do in the Star Wars universe going forward that would work. Aside from that, I mean, if it's just, day-to-day life as usual, yeah, what are you going to do that's going to be a couple thousand years in the future and epic enough to be interesting? It's going to have to build on what we saw before, but then if it's tied too much to what we saw before, it also means nothing else that interesting can have happened in that 2,000-year period, which also means all the storytelling in between is kind of eh.
Mm-hmm. True.
So you really have to be careful if you go too far out.
Yeah, and I think that's the problem that Resistance ran into, apart from it just being intentionally geared toward a younger audience. The more compelling episodes of it were the ones that were tied more closely to the movies that were going on.
Right.
The loudest complaints were about these detached episodes that, dealt more with life on the Colossus than they did with the Colossus's larger effort in the war.
Right.
And from that standpoint, I agree with you. I also think if they're going to do any kind of connected series, whether it's a trilogy or whatever, and I understand they've said that they're going away from the trilogy model, which I like. You need to have a compelling big bad. I mean, think about phase 1 of Marvel, right? I mean, I would hope that if they're going to go that route with the effort that's been put into building up the Grisk, that it follows a model like that, where over the series of, multiple movies with different angles and whatnot, we see a larger conflict brewing that comes to a head, as opposed to just a single movie where in 2 hours you're introduced to this, entire race of beings that are tactically superior and very adept, and then they're dealt with by the end of the 2 hours.
Right.
And all Zahn's work has gone out the window and we never see them again.
Right.
That'd be fine, but it'd be less satisfying.
Well, if they can keep Thrawn alive a little longer this time around.
Just keep chaining him to Purgils and jetting him around to some unknown part of the galaxy.
I have to wonder what the Yuuzhan Vong battle, like a war, would have been like if we still had Thrawn. It would have been 2 books instead of 19. That's all I'm saying. All right. Well, again, we don't know that that's what Gary Wood is talking about. It's probably not about... Again, there's rumblings about something going on with Rey, whether it's a series moving forward or not. I doubt it's that. I doubt it's anything about Bane. I'm guessing it's probably something related to Cassian Andor. I mean, it makes sense,
Cad
right?
Bane? I'd be down for a Cad Bane movie. Just him being a dick.
What about
slinging down?
Watch this, Lou. And I found this action figure in the same place I picked this up this weekend. What about Bane Malar? No look of recognition in Tom's eyes.
Yeah. Look, I'm very open about the fact that my my non-canon knowledge is limited, and
it's not technically canon. He was one of the background characters in the Cantina. He had a Decipher CCG card.
Oh, that's right.
He had an action figure. He's got kind of like one of the Daft Punk helmets.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah, see, he gets it. Tom, he picked up on it when I explained it. He got it. And Lou, we didn't expect you to know it. It's okay.
I wasn't even going to go there because
I almost picked up the figure.
Basic background character.
But it was like, I don't know, like $15, $20 or something. I'm like, for a character nobody else is going to get the reference to, I couldn't.
Yeah, but as long as you know.
I know, but I'm trying to be good about money and all that. And I mean, I got this one thing. I'm trying to limit my collectibles now to only the things I really care about, because money's limited, space is limited. Sometimes you got to hunker down. Give me another year or so and, I'll buy one of everything that comes out. But
there you go.
I'll have a whole collection of porgs everywhere. Yep.
Oh, good Lord. Yeah. Between you and the Porgs and Tim and the Gungans.
Oh, one more thing I want to point out.
What I do.
And this is kind of the last thing we have on, I think, on the show, but I wanted to point this out because to me personally, I worked with him a bit and I've got a lot of respect for him. you remember Dustin Roberts from theforce.net, rebelscum.com, right? You met him in Orlando?
Yep.
Okay. And Tom,
Yep.
I don't know if you've ever had any interaction with him anywhere. Dustin ran theforce.net for pretty much the whole time I've been around TFN. And even prior, like back in 2000, when someone else, I forget her name, was kind of like the main person running it, he was still involved there, and still kind of like at least the second person there. I wasn't too deeply in things back then, so I didn't understand the hierarchy. But when I went back there later on, like Dustin was the guy. He kept the Force.net up and running on a day-to-day basis. He has now left the Force.net. I don't think there's any drama or anything. I think he's just like, hey guys, I did my run. It's been 20 years, really long time.
Wow.
And over 12,850 posts. That's a lot.
That's a lot of posts.
That's a lot of posts. And so he said, I'm hanging up my hat. And I got to say that, the Force.net, and I never really got deep into the collecting side of the hobby, so I can't speak for rebelscum.com, though he was also active there. But I can tell you for the news site, he worked his butt off. There were times where it was just explosive and he was working his butt off to keep up with everything. And then there were times when the news kind of died down and there wasn't really a lot to cover. And he would work his butt off trying to come up with things to cover and things to make the site interesting. And, there have been lots of ups and downs there over a 20-year period, of course, with anywhere there'd be some light drama behind the scenes. The Forcecast had, the podcast I started and then it went away, and then the Forcecast came, and then those guys went away, and then I stepped in, and then we went away, and the new guys came in, and, and he had been kind of the point of contact for Philip Wise through all of that too. So he was also kind of managing us. The guy really, really, truly worked his butt off for what was essentially a hobby. And I have just an utmost amount of respect for him. And this actually happened, I think, back on the 17th of September, but this is the first time I've recorded Echo Base since then. I was out last week, but I wanted to say something because that's a lot of work. And yeah. I actually got to witness some of it. And Dustin, if you're listening, and I know you're probably not, but if you are, I just want to say, first of all, thank you for all the interactions you and I had. There were so many of them, and I always felt like I had your support. And you took care of the staff exactly the way staff should be taken care of, and really well. And you were really engaged, and I appreciate that. You also kind of helped me get my photograph with Mark Hamill that I show off to everybody after the convention when they're tearing all this stuff down and putting away the autograph hall and stuff like that. And that was really meaningful to me. And you kind of helped nudge me toward doing that a little bit. And I appreciate that. And, but not just my experiences with you. Thank you for what I got to see you do with other people. And the fact that you were consistently supportive with all of this staff. And there's a lot of people who've rotated through rebelscum.com and theforce.net and the Forcecast over the years. And, again, my hat is tipped to you, sir, and thank you for everything that you did for us and for the Star Wars community in general. And whatever it is you're moving on to from here, I wish you the best of luck. If there's ever anything that we here at Random Chatter can do for you, just let us know. Thank you for the opportunities that you gave us, and best of luck to you, man. Good job. That's it. That's my whole soapbox thing. Dustin, if you're listening, you can tune out now.
Really nice.
I'm done, but I just,
that was well said.
I think that when people sacrifice that much of their free time to support a community that they are also a part of, I think that that's what makes this fun for all of us. That's why we go do things like Celebration or cosplay or, model building or whatever. It's because part of it is because of it's our own expression of our passion for just something that's fun. Star Wars isn't real. I have a real life and a real job and a real family. Like, that's the real stuff in life. This is just some little fantasy hobby thing, but it brings me joy, and we need to focus on things in life sometimes that bring us joy. And when we can also find that joy with other people and interacting with other people and forming our own little communities of shared interests and shared experiences, that's a really powerful thing. And I think Dustin really, I shouldn't have told him to tune out yet, huh? Dustin, I'll give you the address later you can send the check to. But I mean, Dustin was one of many people out there who really actively and progressively tried to help foster that sense of community, sometimes actively in what he did out front and sometimes passively by providing the support network necessary for other people to step up and take the reins and get things done. And not just Dustin. I mean, he also had support from the other staffers, from Philip Wise and others, et cetera. But, you know, when I see people doing stuff like that, I think it's important that we call them out and thank them. Because Dustin has now moved on and passed the torch, and there are going to be other people there and elsewhere that are going to continue to foster a community that should be supporting one another and building one another up. And the community doesn't always do that. So the more aspects of the community that can come together and build and create something positive, I think that we need to, we not being the network, we being you guys out there too, we as a community need to support that and show appreciation for one another. So, and
having been over the years more of a passive consumer of that stuff, I was never active on the boards, but you know, always enjoyed reading it. That community that they built over a number of years, I think about the dedication it took. Like think about from 2005 after Revenge of the Sith until, you know, I don't know. You can argue one way or the other with Clone Wars during its run from 08 to 12, but think about the effort that it took during those years. And I know personally, I had a period from 2003 to about 2010 where my fandom, like my passion for Star Wars, really waned. You know, part of that was being in college and just going through a phase in my life. But I would always come back to the Force.net, to Rebel Scum, and I think the existence of those communities help keep the fire alive to some degree.
That's something people underestimate.
It's huge. You know, Star Wars now is ubiquitous and all that, and it's everywhere you turn, and it's like the cool thing, but it wasn't always. Right. And I know in my own life, I struggled with that, and there was a while where I put it to the side and said, you know, I don't want to be affiliated too much with this thing that's making me seem not so cool. But in the back of my mind and on my bookmarks on my web browser, there was always that site, and I would always go there fairly regularly. And I don't know that I would be sitting here if it weren't for a community like that they built. So thank you to all those folks, and thanks to Dustin for keeping that fire alive.
And I think that that's something that's always really impressed me as well. Again, it wasn't just Dustin, but Dustin was there through all of that. When we went from episode 3 to not knowing where things are going forward from there, it's hard to keep that spark alive. Right? There's nothing. Right. It's easy now. Yeah. I mean, we've got the Mandalorian, we've got the Cassian Andor series, we just had the movies, etc. Everybody's talking about Star Wars constantly. Back then, people weren't. That's a really hard time period to try to keep a site like the Force.net active and engaged, and he did it. I remember even when it was still called the Star Wars page at A&M University, way back in the day. Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, Dustin, if you are still listening to this, first of all, I'm sorry, because, you know, we're rambling, but thank you. And by extension, also thank you to everybody still out there at rebelscum.com, the Force.net, the new guys at the Forcecast. You know, we haven't really interacted with you guys, but we support you. We're glad that things are going well for you guys, and we always hope the best for you guys. Jay Shepard's still doing Jedi Journals, still a friend of the network. Yeah, so just wanted to throw that out there. I saw that blog post, and immediately my first thought was, oh, I can't wait to get on Echo Base and talk about the stuff that Dustin did for not just the site, but for the community. So
Oh, we should reach out to him soon and see if we can get him on the show too. I mean, I've only met him a couple times myself. My first time meeting him was in Anaheim, 2015, when he helped me get out there and helped us get a recording and so forth out there, which was fantastic.
Let's do that.
Treated me like he had known me forever.
Yeah, Lou, make sure I don't get distracted because I mean I do have some things going on, but Lou, stay on me about that because I want to bring him in, and he has done so much over such a period of time that I know already for a fact that he's got some awesome stories, some of which he probably can't tell, but I know there are some he can, and
yeah,
I'd really like to sit down and do that if he's willing to.
Yeah,
great.
If we reach out to him.
Yeah.
Well, very good. As you said, Eric, I think that brings us to the end of the episode. For not having much news, we certainly filled out an hour, so that was good.
Well, Dustin helped with that.
He did.
Tim did not. Just saying, Tim.
Did not help one
Just
bit
saying.
Today. Yeah. Where is
Slacker?
He? Anyway.
Sleeping, probably.
Probably. Okay, well, thanks again for listening, everybody. Thank you in the chat room for being there. You guys kept us on the straight and narrow a little bit here tonight. And, please go to the website, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And, every Sunday night, tune in to catch us at 8 o'clock Eastern time on YouTube now. So,
yes.
Thanks again, guys.
Take care.